Hello and welcome to the Car Care Nut channel. So folks, at first glance, this looks like a 2019 Toyota Prius Prime. Nice car, gets good EV range, 25 miles, and you look at it from the outside, this looks like every other Prius Prime with 30,000 miles and life is good. But this car is so special, and to me personally, the owner is even more special. This Prius Prime has 341,000 miles. Yes, you heard that right. 3-year-old car with 341,000 miles. And it's not a taxi cab, it is actually a courier service car. This owner owned this car since it was new, bought it with 23 miles, and have accumulated over the last 3 years 341,000 miles. In today's video, we're going to take a look at this car. We're going to take a look at the inside, the engine. We're going to lift it up, look at the original brakes and original everything, including of course, the battery, the high voltage battery, and even the 12-volt battery. During the ownership of this car, the owner hasn't really had to do much other than maintenance. Just the thing doesn't break down, just keeps going, and he intends to keep it for as long as she goes, or God forbid, somebody causes an accident. But folks, before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some other videos. If you are a returning subscriber, well, thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. And without further ado, let's go check this thing out. First, let's take an outside tour of this Prius Prime. Folks, this does not even have that much stone chips. It just has the normal amount, nothing excessive. And one funny story that the owner told me, right here, you see those? This actually happened when the car had 1,000 miles, and then 340,000 miles later, it didn't have another one. I mean, the front end looks normal. It's not falling apart. Typically cars, when they have a lot of miles, have been in many accidents and things are falling apart and potholes and hits. But I mean, there's hardly anything. You look here, there's a tiny little scuff. And that's really it. Headlights are not yellowed. Nothing. It just looks like a normal car. Of course, it has the typical road rash from a car that has this much miles, but nothing else. Hubcaps, still there. Nothing, no scuffs. Paint's looking great. Of course, this is a Car Care Nut owner that takes care of this car, so everything looks beautiful. The one thing we noticed on the roof, he said a tree branch fell and caused that ding. That's really about it. Otherwise, I mean, it looks completely normal. And this being an EV, you can charge it. He says he has never really charged it here, per se, with a cable. But he usually uses charge mode, keeps it up to 80%, and utilizes that when he stops to take a nap or rest. So here's the back. Everything looks normal. It's a beautiful, beautiful exterior. I mean, this is just incredible, folks. There is not even a single door ding, scratch, nothing. This car has been around everywhere, and yet it looks like this. You would not believe it till you actually see it. This is in beautiful shape. Now, the windshield does have chips, a lot of chips actually, and this is the third windshield on this car, and it already has chips, and that's, I guess, is a typical thing with a car that's on the road, rock chips and whatnot. Something that I usually look at is this area. We have a few chips that we're going to want to touch up. I mentioned to the owner, but otherwise, it's in great shape. We're going to take a look at the interior, keeping in mind that this is a car that's always on the road. This is a person that almost lives in this car, driving it for work. But would you look at this seat? I mean, there is no rips, doesn't really look extremely worn. The passenger seat looks pretty clean, and you see the seats are folded in the back because he uses this for transport. Steering wheel, it's not worn, it's not really excessively worn, and the biggest thing that you're gonna want to see in this interior is this. $341,824. And you look at this interior, I mean, it's in great shape. This, folks, let me remind you, this is white interior. It's so easy to stain. It's so easy to get all this stuff, yet we have nothing. I mean, this interior is pretty clean. Headliner, pretty clean. This is an owner that truly takes care of this car. And I asked him about the degradation of the battery. He says it really hasn't happened. He still uses charge mode. It charges, life's good, and drives exactly the same as it did when it was new. Nothing really have changed. Let's go look under the hood real quick, because this is where things get interesting. Not the grimy, typical old car or high mileage car engine bay. It's clean. The owner takes pride in this car. He calls it his main source of income. So he treats it as a part of his livelihood. He takes care of it, takes pride in it, and it shows. Folks, let me just remind you one more time, 341,000 miles on this car. And here is that original 12-volt battery. This is incredible, folks. Everything here, everything you see here is original. Nothing really have been changed. The engine is the same, the transmission is the same, the inverter is the same, everything. It just goes to show that you take care of a car, it'll take care of you. But here's what we're gonna do in this video. Let's put this car up on the lift and look at the original brakes all around, because the owner is concerned. He wants to know, should he replace them? He actually have mentioned to me, let's just replace the brakes just because. But I do want to actually look at them, measure the pads, and that's what we're gonna do. So let's do it. Let's take the engine cover off and we'll do a full tour here, because this thing is incredible, the condition that it's in. All right, folks, this is the testimony of Toyota reliability. This is not some car with 100,000 miles. This is not some car that is babied and taken care of. This is a work car. And look at this. Not a single leak. And what you see here, they just replaced the transmission fluid, and this needs to be cleaned, and that's it. I mean, I see nothing here. I see this car, I would think it has 20, 30,000 miles until you tell me. I mean, look at the suspension, all original. And the best part is, the owner told me that he's been to a dealership for an oil change, and they told him, oh, you need to replace the struts. Why? They're not leaking, they're not making noise, the ride is fine. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, folks. Remember that. We're gonna take a look at the brakes in a bit, we'll take the wheels, but this is the third set of tires in this car, and believe it or not, the owner gets just under 90,000 miles out of these tires, which is pretty incredible. These tires are getting there. These have about 60,000 miles on them. They're a little noisy. Of course, he's driving so much, he doesn't even have time to rotate them over 5,000 miles, so they do get choppy toward the end, they make noise, but he stuck with the original style tires. These are the Toyo Nano Energy. They're low rolling resistance tires. They're the OEM tires that came with this car. And then we look here, Fram oil filters. This is really hard when you're always on the road to get the original filters and whatnot, but he's had good luck with this one. If you look up there all the way at the top, I'll try to get you a better angle here. Really hard to see with the camera, but we have a slight seepage right there, right where I'm pointing my laser there, right in that area. That is typical with these, and at 340,000 miles, that is nothing from the front timing cover. But folks, look at the rest of this car. This is incredible. I mean, look, we don't have rust. We don't have excessive rust. And the thing with cars that are always on the road, they just don't have a chance to get rusty because they're always being washed off. Salt never sits. Here's that exhaust. Has a little bit of, you see it here. This is a car that's driven everywhere, salt or shine, it doesn't matter, it's driven. But it's in great shape. I mean, you wouldn't believe this car has this many miles when you see it. And then looking at the rear suspension here, everything here is original, 341,000 miles. Even the springs still have the markings. And no, this has not been replaced. These are original. The shocks, no leaks, no nothing. Everything looks beautiful. Absolutely nothing wrong here. Here's that muffler. I mean, I don't see anything that this car needs. Now, the owner is concerned about the brakes, which we're going to look at in a bit here, but he's also concerned about the condition of the car. He wanted me to check it over. I mean, there's just nothing this car needs. The only thing we're going to do today is replace the inverter coolant and look at the brakes. He wants them replaced, but I'm going to actually look at them, see what kind of condition they're in. Few battle scrapes here. Of course, it's a car with a lot of miles, but nothing excessive. I mean, you'll see cars with very low miles that have worse battle scrapes. And this car has been through a lot of battles, folks. This is just incredible that we have zero leaks. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Suspension is all original. Ball joints, they're original and they're good. Not even leaking or the boot separated, nothing. Here's the other one. Nothing. Calipers still have color. CV boots are good. Here's the other CV boot. Other CV boots good. Nothing. Absolutely, this car needs nothing. Any dealership that tells them otherwise, they're trying to take advantage of that high miles, but this car needs nothing. It just needs another 300,000 miles, honestly. Let's take these brakes apart and we'll take a look and see the original brakes after 341,000 miles. Folks, this is gonna be very interesting. I have just 6 millimeters or just under 6 millimeters on these original 341,000 mile brakes. I mean, yes, granted they are 3 years old, but still, this is some serious skill driving here. And nothing, pads move freely. This pad moves freely. Pins are good. They move well. And then this is the left rear side. Let's go to the front. Same thing. We have just under 6 mils. Pads move. Pins are free. Rotor looks good. Nothing. This is good. Then we move over to the other side. Same thing here. Pads move, pins, rotor is good. Then we go to the last one. This is right rear now. Same thing, folks. This is just incredible. You see me beating on the wheels when I get them off. This is very common in the Priuses. Just give this a good clean. Should be fine. While we're here, let's look a little bit more into the suspension. I mean, it's not even rusty. This is pretty incredible. Here's that shock, no leaks, no issues. Let's look at the other side. Here's that shock again, and the suspension. Nothing, not even rust. It's the filler neck. The rotor here is good. Everything is perfectly fine. And here's the front strut that the dealership have recommended replacement. There's no leaks, there's no issues. Control arm bushing looks good. Has the typical cracks on the edge, but that's nothing to be concerned about. And nothing really here. Same thing with the control arm over here, the bushing, and then the strut, caliper. If you tell me this car has 30, 40,000 miles, I'd believe it, because it's incredible, just incredible shape. Let's fix this one real quick. It's because we're the car care nuts, we can't let it go like this. There we go, it's much better. This is an incredible car, folks. I am very shocked. I mean, you get to this high miles, you're gonna expect a thing or two here, but this thing is just an immaculate shape, and it's unbelievable how well it's taken care of and how many miles it has. And another thing we're gonna look at, if you've been watching my channel, I always tell you to check the hybrid fan filter. This car has two of them, and here's one of them. Folks, this hardly has anything in it. It's getting a little dirty, but believe it or not, this is the original filter of this car. It just doesn't really get dirty because there's never pets in the back, there's never people in the back, there's always just items. So it doesn't really get dirty. It's the same story with the other side. This is pretty incredible. This car is just incredible everywhere I look at it. Let's look at one more thing. We got text stream over here. Let's connect to the car and let's see what kind of codes we have, if any. I am thinking we're not going to have any. Car's in maintenance mode right now. We're bleeding the coolant for the inverter and the engine, but let's see what we see. Let's do a health check. So the only codes we have are history codes and the air conditioner and then navigation system. Folks, this is 341,000 miles, 824. All we have is two history codes and nothing else. No engine codes, no hybrid codes, no pre-collision codes, nothing. This is extremely impressive. And I'm just curious, let's look what the navigation code is. It's history code, so it means nothing. But let's look at it. HD radio tuner malfunction. Well, that doesn't hardly seems like a serious thing, and it's history, so it's not happening right now. And then the air conditioner. Let's see what that code is in history. Refrigerant shortage. It is a history code. That might have been a factory code, folks. This car might have never had its original factory codes erased. This is pretty cool. I mean, you have a car with 341,000 miles and you have nothing in engine, nothing in hybrids. This is very impressive. So there you have it, folks. This is a very incredible car. I mean, it has so many miles. Usually when you get in cars that have this many miles, you know, around the Chicago area, we have cabs at 300,000-400,000 miles. You get in them, they're worn. You know, as a Toyota technician, I sit in these cars when they were new, sit in them when they have miles and they've been abused or taken care of. But you sit in a car with 300,000, 400,000 miles, it just feels worn. There's creaks in the body, there's noise from the suspension, there's oil leaks everywhere, there's oil spilled all over the engine and everything. I drove this. If he did not tell me that this car has 341,000 miles, I would not believe it. I would think it has 20, 30,000 miles. The body is in good shape. Suspension is in good shape. Doesn't rattle, doesn't creak, doesn't make noises. All the suspension works like day one. The brakes, the original brakes, are still working perfectly fine. The engine doesn't burn oil. All the maintenance has been done. The only thing we're doing today is changing the engine coolant, the inverter coolant. That's really about it. Battery is good. Everything is good. This is just incredible. This is the kind of car that you get into a dealership, you get into a shop, you look the car over, doesn't need anything. And it has 341,000 miles. That's a testimony not only to Toyota, but testimony to when you take care of your car, it will take care of you. Because the owner of this car kept on the maintenance, took care of the car, treated it with love and respect. And here's the car at 341,000 miles, treating him the same way. And one thing we're gonna say before we wrap up this video, the owner of this car obviously drives a lot. From a conversation with him, he averages about 4,000 miles a week. Me and you will not drive that in probably 3 months, but he drives that in a week. So let's wish him the best. Let's pray that he stays safe on the road. If you see this car, you're probably not gonna recognize it because it looks so good, you wouldn't be able to tell. But if you ever see him, maybe you know him, wish him the best and wish him that he's safe, because he's a very nice guy and he has a magnificent car that is really mind-blowing. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. And until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.